Welcome to this Nightmare mode, Hell Raised from the tank's perspective. Hell Raised is a nice fun nightmare. It's usually left to the last of the 18th run because the last boss, the machine tyrant, can pose a couple of difficulties. First thing to know, these three mobs have frontal cleaves. That means that as the tank, when you run in, you're going to want them to be turned away from the DPS just in case you have someone who decides to cozy up to them. Other than that, you're not going to encounter too many Rakshasa in here, so it's not really an issue. So now is an excellent time to be bugging your DPS about whether or not they have their hit point pieces equipped, because throughout this dungeon we're going to be encountering the ability Macro Shock, which can hit for over 2k. General rule of thumb, I find that if I ask people to put on health points, then I will then be able to impair everything, and if I forget to ask them to put on health points, then they will get hit and die. It's just one of those great times when the world just kind of kicks you in the crotch a bit. So as a tank, you don't need to worry because you've already got a load of hit points. What you are going to want in for this first boss is 3 impairs. All that she does is cast Macro Shock. However, you also have to stay out of the purple fire, because the purple fire, if you step in it, gives you stacks of life burn. And more than a couple of stacks of life burn and you're going to have one really unhappy healer. Ideally, you want the purple to be circling the central pillar in the opposite direction, because that means that you can wait till you get a perfect run and you're going to have to hardly move her. So, the only important thing to worry about, Macro Shock. Here we run in. I use Stone's Throw because I love the hate on it initially, and straight into an impair, and then run away. So you can line of sight her. There are various bits on the central pillar, and the tactic which I use is to basically impair a Macro Shock and then run off and hide so that she then gets dragged away from the purple stuff, which gives you more time to then DPS. If she does get off a Macro Shock, it jumps and chains, so it will hit multiple people at once and can kill DPS on the initial hit, or just from them taking too much damage. Then we run on through and we have the lovely Kuroda. Now the Kuroda only has caustic outpouring to worry about. That means that if you feel like it, you can actually switch your abilities around, as I am doing at the moment, and go for a higher DPS build. He doesn't have anything for you to impair. Caustic outpouring is not something you need to worry about impairing, it's positional instead. So again, Stone's Throw, it's a wonderful ability, and that's how I will be pulling him. So make sure that the hammer lands before you move out of line of sight, otherwise you will waste Stone's Throw. It will go on to cooldown, but you won't actually hit it. I like to hide behind that rock there, and then you just run up. We've already seen caustic outpouring, and so yeah, it's really just a case of wail on him as hard as you like. This is a perfect time for tanks to be using whips with crack and the binding signet, so that you increase party damage. Don't really worry about using any serious cooldowns. He hits a bit harder than a wet noodle, but not that much. It's pretty much easy bullion. Next we're on to the first boss, where we're going to be really wanting to make sure that we've got good impairs. This guy is called the hardwired flesh tank, and he uses an ability called Searing Brand. If the Searing Brand hits, it'll do 8, maybe 9k's worth of damage, possibly even more. If it crits and pens, you're totally up. You're very unlikely to survive it, let's say. So personally, I like to get all the DPS to stand on that first platform, and then as I pull, I just run in, and then I stones throw him as he walks past me. That means that if any DPS have got a whip with crack, he's then in range. I'm using Whippersnapper, Stunning Swirl, and Beatdown. That I forgot what it was called there. Basically, they all apply instantly. You can use Trial by Swords, but you have to remember that it only applies the appear at the end of the animation. Don't worry about anything, just wail on him and impair Searing Brands. He will cast ability which sets fire to the platform, as he has just done there. These days, we just healers will heal straight through it. And hopefully your DPS will have brought purges as well. Purges? Cleanses. To get rid of stacks of life burn when they are invariably applied. So he goes down nice and quickly. And we move on to his incredibly similar brother, who has another couple of abilities to worry about. But it's pretty much the same guy. Oh, Flesh Tank also cleaves. So that's a good reason to point him away from DPS. Trauma Driver. He's a fairly easy one. He has Searing Brand once again. He also has Strip Mine and Molten Metal. Now, Strip Mine will create a circle AoE that will basically kill anyone that stands in it. Searing Brand, though, is the big one to impair. Everyone can just move out of Strip Mine. If they don't, they're going to die. Molten Metal will apply a stack of life burn on everyone within 10 meters. DPS can avoid it simply by being more than 10 meters away. It's simple as that. Otherwise, just let them get hit, trust the healer. That's what Strip Mine looks like right there. And just keep impairing the Searing Brands. If you're feeling particularly confident, you can use up impairs on either Molten Metal or Strip Mine. If you notice that your healers are looking low on life, that's a good time. Otherwise, just save your impairs for Searing Brand. And then we move on. Now, we're about to get to another one of those wonderful bits where just everybody runs straight past the mobs, and you'll want to make sure you have sprint on. It's nice to try and line of sight the mobs as much as you can, so that if they are going to cast any kind of ranged attack, then they're not going to be able to hit you with it. And then we encounter Recursia Many in One, who again has Macro Shock. She also has Arcane Halo. Arcane Halo is an ability which creates a basically it nukes the entire room except for a small safe circle around her. This would be completely fine were it not for the fact that Macro Shock will chain if everyone's standing too close, so it's easiest to just impair it. She will, at varying points, teleport to the middle, and you will get Rakshasa moving from the edge of the room into the centre. The DPS basically have to kill the Rakshasa whilst before they reach her, otherwise they will explode and do lots and lots of nasty damage. She also chucks out reflective damage shields. These will be yellow pools that she places initially on top of a party member's head. It seems to be fairly random who she targets. But if you try and shoot either a Rakshasa or the boss whilst they're inside that shield, basically the DPS are going to one-shot themselves, which we don't like to do. So it's useful for the DPS to not stand in the inner ring, because then there's less chance of one of the Rakshasa being in the shield when we really need to kill it just before it reaches her. If she does throw a shield onto you as the tank, then rather than running away from her so that she will come to you, you have to stay right in her face, because she then moves away from you. Here, that was Arcane Halo, which has been impaired, and there you can see that she's moving away from me. Now I'm impairing Macro Shock. If everyone's got a health point piece on, you don't have to, but if they get penetrated, it'll kill them. Here comes an ad phase. So, as you can see, Rakshasa have spawned around the outside of the room. They only activate sort of a couple at a time, or one by one indeed. And you and the DPS run around smacking them. I personally try to hit as many as I can, because I know that there are lots of DPS who run Fever Pitch to get their hit rating up in Hellraised. And Fever Pitch will only trigger when they're hitting a weakened target. So all I'm actually doing is just running around putting weakened on stuff. It's a thrilling job, but someone's got to do it. Keep an eye on how many Rakshasa remain unactivated and unkilled, because once they're all dead, she will wake up again. And yep, that's a wipe, because she's well, it's a wipe now because whilst she's in the shield, you can't impair her. Unfortunately, people didn't manage to get in out of the Arcane Halo, and so they got nuked, and we ended up having to wipe this one. So yeah, I'm going to claim that that was almost a deliberate idea. Yeah, maybe not. So if the shield is on her and you don't have the ability to impair, make sure that everyone collapses in for Arcane Halo. Remember, after you've died, to sort of chomp on a taco. It really speeds up your hit point regeneration. I think I've actually forgotten here, so that's embarrassing. But anyway, everyone seems to be ready, so we're going back in. And yeah, rinse and repeat, really. Trying to impair any Macro Shocks just like that, and impairing Arcane Halo, and then we're back onto an ad phase. You'll get 2 ad phases where at the end of the ad phase she will activate again. For the 3rd ad phase, she doesn't actually become immune to damage anymore, and will activate pretty much all of the Rakshasa far faster than you're actually able to kill them. So for the 3rd ad phase, it becomes a DPS race of can you kill her before the Rakshasa make it to her and explode. She also moves around the room in the 3rd ad phase, which means that she almost invariably ends up being closer to sort of some of the ads than you would prefer. Hopefully there will be a DPS with cleanup, because she pops 2 stacks of life burn onto the entire group whenever she calls for ads, and as you can see, someone's popped it straight away, and it's not a problem. It's doable if you don't have a clean. If someone's forgotten to slot a cleanup, it just gives the healer a bit more work. But given that the healer doesn't actually have that much to do during this phase, unless they're a leech, it's not that much of a biggie. Everyone should have cleanup anyway, because the machine tyrant needs lots of cleanups. So just run around, spamming my builder, not really worrying about consumers. If you find a situation where you're thinking that they're getting a bit close to the boss and the DPS are all on the other side doing their kind of thing themselves, then you might want to use consumers. Otherwise, just save them for when she reactivates, which should be any second. There she is, yes. So once again, impairing Macro Shocks, and I'm now standing back a bit because there's no shield around, and if she dumped it on my head there, I really don't want her to be immune to my impairs again. And there she's dead. easiest way up to the final boss is for someone to do a suicide run. I did it because I was feeling kind of embarrassed at having messed up on the previous boss, and so I just decided to eat the repair cost. Anyone can do it. A DPS, just run straight past the mobs, get up into the arena, have a look to make sure that everyone has actually made it up and got the animal well, and then you can just stand there and die. I like to try and take some of them with me and fail miserably. So then we are on to the bane of many people's nightmare existence, which is the machine tyrant. So for machine tyrant, I've made sure that I've got surging blades and rocket jump, so that I've got a dash and my rocket jump. He's got anima overcharge and demolish. He will regularly cast life burn, and so we've already worked out a order on cleanups for everybody. And in order to get rid of anima overcharge, which is his reflective damage shield, I'm going to drag him through these wells. Demolish is a big nasty AoE like that will basically kill me if I'm in it, and so you just want to make sure that you're never in it. It is possible to impair it, but if it glances, you're dead, so it's far easier to just move out of it. Whenever I drag him through an anima well, he gets a debuff called anima depletion. That's a timer on how long it is going to be until his shield comes back up, and I'm tracking that using Eth's buff bars. That's the green bar that you can see on the screen. So I'm waiting till that is almost gone before I'm dragging him through the next, because as soon as you drag him through a well, then it starts a timer for the next one to then spawn. He has a nasty cleave, so don't run him on top of the DPS. And he will occasionally move into the middle and do this carpet bomb thing. Just move out to the corner and wait for him. Try and stand on the opposite side of the well, so that when he then reactivates, he then walks straight into the well. So it's all going fairly well at the moment. That's another demolish. And just keeping an eye on where the next well is spawning, and then moving him over towards it, waiting until the counter's fairly low, and then moving through it. Don't stand in the animal well. It actually will damage you if you stand in it yourself. He's then going to move into the middle again and do some more carpet bombing. There's red circles chasing everybody around, so try not to get caught in those, or you get knocked over and then frequently pounded another couple of times. His shield stops coming back up at about 50 or 60k-ish. I'm not entirely sure of the exact figure, but it's nearly there. And once that has happened, you can just go and stand in a corner, and he will basically run to you and then run back to the middle. Now is basically just the time that you let your DPS finish him off. Make sure you don't get hit by any bombs or do anything silly, and he's really not that hard to beat. If you do need a couple of wipes, then you're in great company. Most players find this one of the harder fights in Nightmares. And that is the wonders of Hellraised. Thanks for watching.